So we're getting ready to talk about these other grants. So these is all the pieces you have to do. We have to hunt here, we have to go here, we jump through this first hoop, then we have to set a hoop on fire, and then we have to jump back through it after it's melted. So that's just part of where it's at. So that'll get us into this section. So back in February of last year, we got this. And every time we get one of these, everybody says, well, they've got money in the bank. Well, I asked the governor where this goes and where that bank, the big blue bank was. And because this won't go through the drive-through here. But this is only a notice of funding announcement. An NOFA is what they said. So this is, once we get through a whole lot of hoops, this gets us to the point that we know we're going to get the money. But then we have to go through all those hoops and jump and work with CRAD and engineers and procure contractors and everything else. So anyway, this was this. So now she's going to go through how we got to here and then what we have to do going forward to make sure we're compliant. We don't have to pay nothing back and we meet all the federal requirements.
So the general misconception is once the governor comes and he announces, you know, your funding and he presents you with that check, is that the money is automatically there and you can go, straight into construction. You can't. So what we did is we created this little sheet so that everybody would kind of have a better understanding of how you get to that check and what happens after you get that check. So there is a long planning cycle. So we started in June of 2022, actually planning out this project. You'll hear us refer to it as the Jenkins ADA project. They call it that architectural barrier removal project. So basically, we started with the mayor and some others just even beginning to plan this project in June of 2022. And what that was is we researched what we could do, what was available funding-wise out there, and then we went and we procured an engineer. It was Nesbitt Engineering that ended up being procured. We had to follow very strict guidelines as to how we even procured an engineer for this project. You have to actually send out letters. You have to advertise it in the newspaper. There is Kentucky Apex that it has to be put on. You have to, there's a very long process. So then we went and we did that. As far as that was concerned, then we sat back down with the engineer. We brought them in. We had to do meetings all over again. They had to look over your building to see what would qualify, what would not qualify. From that point, then they were able to actually even give us a cost estimate as far as, how much it was going to cost us. From there, we were able to actually start to apply for funding. We went through many cycles of being turned down for grants. Then we had to look at mapping. That went from June of 2022 to January of 2023. So, it was several months to even get to where we could even do mapping of this project. Then after that, we started applying. And this is actually one of the quicker moving projects. I've had projects that's taken 7-8 years. So
we had a sidewalk, took about 14.
Yeah, and I've got one project that's taken 26 years. So this is actually one of our quicker moving projects. So we did our GIS. We sent in our applications, and we actually received our award notice in May of 2023. And then, of course, the governor came down, did the check presentation, and then we were allowed to actually formally announce it out to the public at that point in time. Then the engineer could actually formally do his engineering designs. This actually takes several months because there is a lot of intricate details that goes into even designing a project. It can take them, 4 or 5 months, sometimes 6 months to even design a project to get it down and get it even approved by Frankfurt. If it's a water project, a division of water has to approve it. If it's a building, it has to be approved as far as, building permits, things of that nature. We had to make sure that the city was up to date to audits. Thank goodness that your city maintains your audits very well. And then we were able to acquire our grant agreement in January 2024. So you see that it took us quite some time to even get our grant agreement. The grant agreement says that you can now bid your project. So or not bid your project, but you can now actually go forward in your project. So then we had to do an environmental process to get our release of funding. We had to go through a lot of federal tribal permitting because you do have to consult tribal. Even though we do not have active tribes here, there are still tribes that consider stakes in Kentucky. So we had to consult with tribes. And a tribe can say yes or no, your project can go forward or not. So then we had to consult with a lot of other federal agencies to ask them if they had any issues with this project going forward, even though it's a building project. And you can even imagine how much worse it is on a water or sewer line going in the ground. So, you know, then after once all that was completed, that took us to December 2024. So at that point in time, we had to talk with the engineer, make sure that they had schedules, all of that. They had their permits in place. Then we had to obtain wage rates for this project because it does have to go through federal wage rates. All the contractors and their people have to be paid federal wage rates on this project. We had to make sure that Build America, Buy America was established in this because this project does have to meet that as well. So then we had to have some more meetings. The engineer had to get their bid packet together. We had to submit that. We had to have that posted for so long. And then came the bid opening. And then we had to go back. We had to review all that to make sure that it met. They had their bid bonds, all of that. So there's a lot that goes through the process of this. And this is what nobody really truly understands as far as, you know, what really goes behind the scenes. All most people understand is that you see a check, you think the money's there, and it is, but there's a lot of processes that have to go on behind the scenes that the engineer is doing, that CRAD is doing, in order to get you to where you can actually break ground on your project. So that took us to January 2025. Then we brought it before you guys. You guys agreed that we could award the project. And then from there, March of 2025, we were able to say, yes, we can go to construction. And here in April, we are finally under construction, but it will be several months before we finally complete construction. So, you know, your typical project can last anywhere from 6 months to 2 years, depending on what type of project it is. And then we have all kinds of closeout paperwork that happens behind the scenes that can take several months to even close that project out. So, you know, your typical project, like I said, can take, you know, anywhere from 6 to 8 years, and that's just a typical project. This one actually moved a lot quicker in the grand scheme of things than what most projects do. So we were very fortunate that it moved as quick as it did.
And tonight we'll get down to the first round of money.
Yes.
And the first round of money is a drawdown, so we never really get the money. We get the work done through everything Jennifer just talked about. Then we're able to submit a request, and then if we do 9% of the work, which I think is where we're at right now, we get 9% of the money. Yep. So we've never really, other than just coming through the bank quickly, we don't have a hold of it too long. So, and the Buy American piece, just transparent type stuff, we're dealing with that right now. And that 4 minutes before a progress meeting today, they found out that they met the bylaw threshold for the elevator company that's building the elevator. So,
and we have to have that approved in order to even move forward because it may or may not meet Buy American. So now we have to go back and make sure that it does.
And then the elevator company that's doing that wouldn't sign the contract on the elevator till we got a extension on the time frame of building it, because they want a 20-week lead time on top of 6 weeks they'd already been dealing with it. So, not to confuse everything, just understand there's a lot to this. There's, you know, every time we go after one of these grants, there's stuff happens before, there's stuff happens during, there's stuff happens after. And we have to bid everything, we have to procure, we have to do all the things that the agencies that provide the money says we have to do. And so anywhere from now on, if I say USDA or CDBG or whatever, and you don't understand what that is, stop me, because it's U.S. Department of Agriculture, it's a Community Development Block Grant, and we get used to saying it, and everybody just nods and goes on, but depending on where the money comes from, some of this is similar, some of it is different, just depends on where you get the money, if it's Appalachian Regional Commission, or if it's Kentucky Infrastructure Authority, or where abandoned mine lands, or wherever it may be. But
And the grant world is a very acronym-heavy world to live in, and that's what I tell all of my new people when they start. You have to understand, we get so used to it that we don't even realize we're spouting acronyms. So anytime you don't understand an acronym, always just say, wait, explain that, and we'll always stop and explain it to you. So.
And I think we're going to try to upload this one section independent of the actual council meeting, so people don't want to watch the council meeting, they can sit through this, but hopefully give them a little bit of an idea of what it takes to go from an idea to actually getting it built out and being compliant with everything you have to do, so.
And we're going to take and build off of this mayor and make sure that we build something that's very similar to this, but actually explains it in a little bit more depth so that we can put it on our website too, so.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's just important because, like I said earlier before the camera come on, one of the biggest things I hear sometimes is, am I going to live to see it? Or I'll never live to see it, or whatever it is. And I get this, the time it takes to go from this to this, people forget we ever announced it. So then I understand, where they're at with it. Because I remember when they put the big Hardee's sign up over it, says coming to town, Hardee's. Me and my buddy took a picture next to it because I thought, well, that'll never happen. But it did. So that's separate from where we're at.
The grant world is a very slow world to live in. It can sometimes be very frustrating.
I'm sure.
Because you want things to happen very, very fast, but it takes a long process to get there. So, be patient. When we say something is happening, it is. You just may not see it.
Jennifer, I think that's good for now. This concludes Grants 101. So stay tuned for the next chapter of this.